There's a secret four-word loophole used by the most powerful man in history to gain massive influence and wealth, get control over other people, and make themselves immortal as the greatest of all time. Julius Caesar used it, Gengis Khan used it, Marcus Aurelius used it, and even Hitler used it. And as you keep watching, you'll discover how to use the same four-word loophole that allowed this man to dominate in business, inspire people around them to do as they wish, and improve every relationship they have, just by installing this one language trick that has nothing to do with sounding more articulate or repeating affirmations or anything else you may think. Because the most powerful men in history understand one crucial thing: how to use language in a way to shape your mind and capture other people's imagination so you can transform your life, even if you started from nothing, like me. Hi, my name is Dario. I'm 21 years old and I've sold over $20 million worth of products online profitably as a high school dropout with English as my second language. And I did that by mastering copywriting, which is the art of using words to influence and persuade people. So I understand language on a deeper level than most. Now, I promise I have nothing to sell you, and my mission is to give you the shortcuts to success so you don't have to struggle like I had to. And in the next few minutes, I'm gonna reveal the truth about language. What are the 4 deep levels of communication that 99% of people simply ignore? But once you master them, especially the 4th level, you will achieve things that look like mind control and seem impossible to others. You'll also learn a simple 4-word technique that will reprogram your mind for success, even if right now you feel stuck or you lack discipline or motivation. So it doesn't matter whether you want to make more money, win a sports competition, or even get better with dating. Once you implement language the right way, it will be so easy for you to not just win, but to dominate, because you'll have no competition. Now, I invite you to find your own reasons to pay close attention and watch until the very end, because you won't find this information anywhere else on YouTube. So let's get started. Now, language is extremely powerful. Why? Because language does 2 main things. First, language reflects consciousness. That means by listening to how people speak, they will tell us something about how the deeper levels of their mind are structured and the way they move through their world. For example, one of my friends asked me for advice on how to launch a new business. And I told him, do this and do that, or do these things, do that thing. And he kept asking, yes, but what if this happens, or what if that happens? What if? And that told me something about the way he approaches risk and the unknown. Or for example, if someone says, love is a battlefield, that tells me something about how that person views love. That it's a fight, that it's about clash, that it's about power, that it's about beating the other person. You understand? So people tell us a lot through the words they use if you learn to pay attention to the right things. So language reflects consciousness. And the second thing that language does is, and also this is equally important, is that language structures consciousness. The way in which we use language, both with others and out loud to ourselves, that can structure the very states of consciousness that we can enter and the very ways of thinking. For example, think about dictatorships, whether they're communist, fascist, or any type of dictatorship. Who are the first people that dictators jail or shoot or deport or exile? Well, it's intellectuals, artists, musicians. What does the Taliban do? The Taliban controls media, wants to control media and music, because these are powerful ways of shaping thoughts. They want to control the very way in which we can think. A great example is the book 1984 by George Orwell, where there's this evil government who has absolute control over people, and they deliberately made the people dumber by controlling what words are in the dictionary. So language can structure consciousness, both for ourselves, so the way we think, and it can also shape the consciousness of the people we are speaking to. And that's the basis of effective communication. To communicate effectively, we must use language in a way that opens up places in the imagination and evoke emotions. And that's the basis of theater. It's the basis of storytelling. It's the basis of political oratory. It's the basis of religious ceremony. Now, I'm going to explain how to use language in a structured, predictable, intelligent way to get what you want. Whether it's motivating employees to work harder, or make your wife or girlfriend do what you want without her realizing it. And I'll even show you how to talk to yourself in your head so you can overcome any difficult task you're dealing with, and to do that more easily. So right now, I gave you a general introduction of language, and now we'll go into the specifics, which is, by the way, is also how you should structure and craft a sales message or a sales presentation. You always start from general and then you go into the specifics. But I'll do a separate video talking about sales tactics. So now, before we dive into the specifics, I need to explain one crucial thing that will make you understand this even better. Now, what I'm about to tell you might feel a bit unrelated, but I'm doing it deliberately to overwhelm your mind. So it's okay if you don't understand everything 100% right now, because as you listen closely, your mind is going to eventually put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and at the very end, everything will be connected. So just trust me and pay close attention. Now, if we know that language structures consciousness, we also understand that the language we absorb through life has constructed the way we're thinking and the way we're moving through the world. So the question becomes, what information and what language did we input into your mind that now you're operating on to make decisions and take actions that ultimately get the results you want? Because you have to realize that most people have very crappy stuff stuck in their head. Even if they are somewhat successful, they have a lot of bullshit in their head, in their mind, which is limiting their operating system from delivering the most optimal output. And that's why they get poor results, whether it's earning more money or improving your dating life. So let's go deeper into this for a moment. Because once you understand how language affects yourself, you can then learn how to use it to affect other people. So you see, the moment we are born, our mind is a slick plate. We don't know anything, we don't think about anything, other than our instincts of, I want to eat, I want to shit, and I want to suck my mother's tits. So whatever information we are then exposed to is then a building block that shapes the way we think in our head. But most people in their childhood were exposed to pretty bad information. And it's very profitable for you to understand what beliefs were formed in your childhood that are stuck deep in your mind, because those beliefs explain a lot of where you are now in life. So when we are babies, small children, our mind is like a sponge absorbing all this information to understand the world. So we get information from the language that our parents or other adults used around us, from the programs we watch on TV, from the teachers that are in school, from the friends we interacted with. And all of this information contributed to building belief systems that we now use as a filter to interact with the world. So think about this. The way our mind understands reality is by juxtaposition, which is a fancy way to say that our mind makes sense of the world by comparing one thing to another. So as you know, everything in this reality has an opposite. There's light and dark, there's cold and warm, there's rich and poor, there's good and evil. So your mind can't understand what light is unless it realizes what dark is. So your mind, your subconscious mind, is a meaning-making machine. It's always trying to derive meaning out of things to understand reality. And it does that by looking at how things are different from each other. And out of that difference, it creates belief. And our mind needs belief to protect ourselves. For example, a little child doesn't know, and so he touches a hot stove for the first time, and his hand gets burned. So from that experience, his mind creates the belief that a hot stove equals very bad pain. So the next time he approaches a hot stove, his mind loads the belief like a computer program that a hot stove means pain, and so he thinks, I'm not touching that shit. You get it? So beliefs are formed through experiences, but also through language. What we hear from other people, or what we read, or what we listen to in the media is what then structures our mind. For example, many of us have this actual experience. So imagine, when you were a child, after your parents put you to bed, sometimes you snuck out of the bedroom and you listen to the conversation that the adults were having, maybe in the kitchen or in the living room. And many people have this actual experience of hearing these conversations from our parents. And many times during these conversations, they were talking about money. But most of these conversations weren't really good. Maybe they were talking about not being able to pay the bills, or not being able to make ends meet, or maybe they were talking about how they raised the price of gas or the price of whatever supermarket. So very often, for most people, these conversations we heard when we were a kid were coming from a scarcity point of view. And this scarcity mindset of our parents has influenced you a lot and has built the beliefs that are now operating on. So the thing is that it doesn't stop here, because one of the most important concepts you can understand now is the following, and I thank Dan Kennedy for teaching me this. Everything is programming, which means that everything around you is programming your mind and programming your beliefs. So not only the conversation you hear, but also the music you listen to, or the movies you watch, or the images and symbols you see around you. All this information is processed by our mind and is either confirming or negating our beliefs. So imagine the beliefs in your mind as little scales. So for each belief you have a scale. Let's say, for example, your belief around money. On one side of the scale, the belief is the following. Money is good, money is abundant, it's my responsibility to make as much money as possible. So good things. On the other side of the scale, you have all the bullshit about money. Money is the root of all evil. If I take money from people, I'm making them poorer. It's a zero-sum gain. I should give all my money away to buy that new car, or that new phone, or that new toy, whatever it is. So your belief about money is a scale with two plates, one on each side. And every piece of information that your mind digests is either adding more weights to one side of the scale or the other. And that determines what you believe about money. But this applies to all the other beliefs that we have about things in the world. So what kind of informations are you inputting into your mind? Well, look at the music you're listening to. When I was a teenager, I used to listen to all these rappers and hip-hop music. And these rappers were always talking about fucking some bitches, doing drugs, and spending money on buying cars or some other dumb shit. And all of this was going straight into my mind to build my beliefs. And you have to realize that even if you consciously don't agree with something, maybe you don't consciously agree with doing drugs, but if you listen to music talking about drugs all the time, that message is going straight into your subconscious mind. And your subconscious can't resist any information. The subconscious can't negate. It takes whatever information you put inside and then use that information to put more weight on one side of the scale, on the belief scale, or the other. So the subconscious is always trying to derive meaning out of things to then build your beliefs. And these belief systems then make you feel safe when you interact with the world. For example, why does a smoker smoke cigarettes? Because deep inside his or her mind, there is the belief that smoking is good and you feel better when you smoke. And so he does it. And each time he lights a cigarette, he feels good. So the belief is confirmed. And his mind is putting more weight to one side of the scale, the side of the scale that says smoking is good. That's why eventually he's gonna smoke again. And that's how all your habits were formed in the first place. You did one thing once, you built a belief that doing that thing was good, and so you're doing it multiple times. So coming back to music, I invite you to think about the music you're listening to or the music your children are listening to. But something even worse than music is the movies we are watching. Now, I'll share something a bit personal about myself. A few months ago, I was in a dark period of my life. I was in Dubai, staying in a one-bedroom hotel room, and I got hooked on watching Netflix. I would watch one Netflix movie every couple of days. And some nights I would even watch like 6 movies in a row, not sleeping at all, trying to anesthetize myself from all the thoughts about the work that I would be doing the next morning. And so I was staying in this zombie-like state where all you care about is getting the next dopamine hit, the next dopamine hit. Maybe you can relate if you're addicted to social media, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever, you know. So I was hooked on instant gratification. And you know, one thing leads to another, so I started to stuff myself with sugary foods, pizza, carbs, sweets, and I indulged myself in self-fulfilling pleasure, you know, watching porn and all that stuff. But now I'm out of all that stuff. And by the way, right now I'm doing NoFap, which means I'm retaining my sexual energy consciously, and I've been on a NoFap streak for a month and a half. But I'm just flexing, you don't care about that. So back to the story. So I was in Dubai. Imagine I'm in this studio apartment with this big bed in the center of the room, and the curtains are closed, so it's all dark inside the room. No sunlight comes in because I didn't want to face sunlight, which meant I was rejecting reality. And I'm laying in bed under the blanket with the laptop on my lap and a box of donuts on the bedside table. And I'm watching Netflix. I'm eating shit and watching even worse garbage. So I'm watching all these Netflix movies from the top 10 movies in the United States, or this viral TV series that apparently everyone is talking about. And as I'm there watching like a zombie, I had this realization of what the movies were actually saying to me. And I was aware of this fact at the time, but I was kind of pushing it away consciously because I was after the instant gratification of watching the movie. But the realization was the following. So what are the movies, these movies that I was watching, actually teaching me? What are the values, the information, and the beliefs that are penetrating my mind while I'm watching this? And if you think about it, it's mostly crap. The most popular movies and TV series are about heists, which means stealing money, scamming people, or they are about the mafia or gambling, or these fucking Hollywood movies about love, which are even worse because they install an idea of what love should be that is totally alien from reality. And so now we have, you know, all these women looking for a kind of guy that doesn't exist, and we have all these men taking advice from movies and acting tough, or supplicating women, or buying booze, or begging them, or bullying them, and all that crap. So all these movies are installing into our mind a set of values and beliefs that 99% of the time don't serve us well. And why are they doing it? Well, you know, someone up there wants to control people, and you control people by controlling the information you feed them, just as I said in the beginning of the video with the dictatorship example. So think about that. And one last interesting fact is that the founder of Netflix is actually the nephew or something of Edward Bernays, who is the inventor of propaganda. And propaganda is the art of influencing public opinion for both positive and negative purposes, such as running a political campaign or a marketing campaign or a product placement. So well, this relationship with Netflix ought to tell you something. I'm not saying anything because I don't want to get banned, but you can draw your own conclusions. So the big concept here, again, is that everything is programming your mind. So from now on, be very careful about the information you interact with on a daily basis. So now that we know how language structures consciousness, you understand that we can use language in a way to shape other people's minds. And in the next section, I'll explain exactly how. So I hope you feel excited. And on a side note, I congratulate you for watching this far. Most people wouldn't watch a video from a random guy with 10 subscribers. So an applause to you. But seriously, you see the value of what you're learning today. And right now, you're investing your time very well because this information can massively improve your life, improve your business and every relationship you have. And of course, I did some sneaky stuff throughout this video to keep your attention and make sure you keep watching till the very end. Your subconscious caught that command. But I'm doing it for your own benefit, so you can thank me later. And you see, this is actually the main difference between persuasion and manipulation. So what is persuasion? Well, my definition is that persuasion is the art of capturing and leading the imagination and emotions of your audience, your reader, your listener, your viewer, such that they take the actions you wish them to take. So on the other hand, manipulation involves things like misrepresenting facts or hiding relevant facts, which means lying, or maybe the use of force, or maybe threats, or the use of painful emotions like shame, fear, guilt, inadequacy, which are actually fine to use in your marketing, but only if you do it the right way. And I can talk more about that in another video. Okay, now let's get into the 4 levels of communications and how you can use them to shape other people's minds and control them without them even knowing it. Sounds good? I thought so. So you have 4 levels of communication. You have the words, then afterwards you have images, and then after the images you have emotions, and then after emotions you have symbols. So once you understand how to communicate on symbolism, then you can open up and access the deep mind, and you can really move people without them knowing what the hell you're doing. So symbolic communication is really important, but we'll go deeper into that later. So when we're speaking or when we are writing, we're always communicating on 4 levels. So for example, so the thing is, once you understand these levels, it's going to allow you to take your copywriting, your marketing and messaging to a whole new level. And it's going to allow you to use language in ways that most people can't use. So first of all, let's state the fact that marketing is change work. Any type of communication is change work. That means you're playing around with the beliefs, the paradigms, the desires and fears of the other people to move them, to change them in some way, to serve your purposes, which I hope are good purposes. So to influence people, we need to send a message. And we send a message through our ads, our VSL, our webinar, our emails, whatever type of marketing tool you use. But there is a problem, actually. You see, the moment we send out a message, it's immediately splitted into 3 different messages. There is the message we send out, there is what the message says, and then there is how the message is received. So what does it mean? Well, as I said, there are 4 levels of communication. And first, there's linguistics, so the words you're saying. And then there are images. So what images are you creating in other people's minds through the words that you use? Because our mind thinks through images. If I say the word dog, you don't imagine the letters of the dog in your mind, you actually see the image of a dog. So it could be a German Shepherd, a Chihuahua, a Rottweiler, it doesn't matter. So it's hard to say a word without an image. And here's something very, very important. A word without an image is an abstraction. So if your prospect or listener or reader can't form images in the mind of what you're talking about, then it's an abstraction. And the number 1 thing that kills sales copy and lowers your communication is abstractions. That's why expensive words, which are Latin words, don't work because most people can't form images. So all the Latin words like conceptualize or mitigation or substantiate, These very articulate words, they often don't create a clear image in your mind, while cheap words are words derived from the English language like dog or water or fuck. You know, swear words are cheap words. And they usually create better images. And here already, you can see the first problem with people that communicate using articulate words. So if your prospect doesn't understand these words, that means that he can form an image in his mind of what you're saying, and then it's harder for his brain to process what you're saying, and therefore the communication is less effective. So one thing you can do right now to optimize your sales copy, whether it's an ad, a VSL, a webinar, a sales letter, or an email or whatever, is to remove abstractions. A word without an image is an abstraction, right? And watch this. A sentence without an image is a bigger abstraction. So to optimize your message, whether it's sales or whatever type of persuasion, just look at the words and sentences you say and ask yourself, is there an image here or not? Can I form an image, or can my audience form an image in their mind of what I'm saying? Because if there's no image, they can't imagine it. And if they can't imagine it, then the communication can go into the third level, which is emotions. And then it can go into symbols, which is the fourth level. So abstractions stop your message from going deep into the mind, right? And one other way we can decrease abstraction is by adding actual images to support the message. So adding images to your sales page or sales video, the extreme example of this is if you think about branding. What branding is nothing but images. But you have to learn to balance image and copy if you're doing direct response and want to get the sale right now. Okay, so now let's look at the third level, which is feelings and emotions. When sentences become paragraphs, they start to form emotions. And as you know, if people don't feel something, they're not going to buy something. All decisions are based on feelings. So we have to get them to feel stuff inside, right? So if sentences do not have emotions, they end up being descriptive and educational, right? Which is okay to have in some part of your sales message, but you understand the difference now. So the question here is, how do we create emotions with our words? Well, we have to use words and language in a way that evokes, elicits, and excites, creating emotional responses and flows of feeling in the body. Effective language can get you to feel certain feelings in the body. It can get you to visualize. It can get you to imagine being somewhere else in time and space. So let me give you an actual example so you can better understand. So I was talking to this woman, we were in a bar, and I asked her this question. If you could go anywhere on vacation, where would you head? And she told me her ideal vacation spot. I listened, and then she asked me back, what about you? Where would you go on vacation? And here's what I told her. Now, the fun thing is that while I was saying what I'm about to say, you could actually see her going into trance while I was talking. Her eyes widened and her lower lips was slightly open. Now, I invite you to pay close attention to the language that I used. So I told her this. Well, I would go on vacation to the Turks and Caicos Islands in the Caribbean. Now, I don't know how well you can picture this. The white sand is soft underneath your feet, like the sugar powder on a donut. The softness and warmth envelops you as you just take a breath and feel yourself sinking in deeper into the sand. You look out at the crystal clear water, the sun's reflection dancing off, the different shades of sea green and blue intertwining. The water is so inviting. And so you feel that urge to just step a foot in and then another. The warm, welcoming waves pulls you in. And as you go down deeper, you feel that swirling around your legs, all the way up to your waist. And you can't help but dive in. At night, it's a gentle, warm breeze. You lay out on the sand, watching the stars come out. And the stars just seem to bathe you in this amazing energy. Each one like a wonderful massage. It's so beautiful to surrender to something so much bigger. Now, do you see how what I just said created images in your mind and maybe even created feelings? Maybe you clearly picture that beach and the warm feeling of the sand between your fingertips. And by the way, while I was saying all this to the woman, I also did some stuff with my hands to hypnotize her. But this is like top secret advanced stuff. Maybe we'll go into it into another video. But anyway, do you see how that description was vivid and filled with emotions? Now compare it with this other description of a vacation. Well, yes, I went on vacation in the Caribbean. The flight was a bit stressful, but fine. We arrived there, the beach was great, the people were friendly, we ate good food, and overall it was a nice trip. I had a lot of fun. Do you see how this is entirely different from what I told you before? Because the problem is, most people speak like this. Their words barely create an image in your mind and rarely create some sort of feelings, but like very superficial. So do you know, when you watch a great movie, you start to feel stuff. Movies change you. They move you internally. But why? Because the movie is using words and images and music that opens up places in the imagination and deeper level of your mind so you can feel things. And that's what effective communication should do. Now, let's go one step deeper. We're gonna go deep inside the rabbit hole together. Because the fourth level of communication is symbols. So symbols and symbolism are the deeper level. And basically, they answer the question, what are you really saying with this? What is the implication of these words, these images, and these feelings? So what happens is, the brain/mind can process only so much information, right? So it has to have an efficient way to get to the point. Now remember what I told before, our subconscious mind is a meaning-making machine and is always looking to understand the meaning of something. So basically, it will take words, images, emotions, and it will compress them into symbols and symbolism. And most people completely ignore this symbolic level. So then their copy, their sales message, or their communication will go sideways and become less effective. But once you understand how to use symbolism, you can communicate straight to the deeper layer of the mind, and that's when the magic happens. Now, I'll give you a few examples so you can really understand this. So if you look at the biggest brands in the world, they're basically symbols. A logo, for example, carries a lot of meaning. So let's say, for example, you're shopping online on some website and you arrive at the checkout page. And there's the checkout button, you know, the pay now button. And underneath the button, sometimes there is a little symbol of a lock. So imagine this symbol of a lock. What does the lock mean? Well, the lock is nothing more but a symbol to imply that the transaction will be safe, secure, encrypted, and your information on that website is going to be protected. So do you see how this tiny symbol carries all this meaning? This one symbol basically summarizes a whole sentence which would sound like, our checkout page is secure, it's 100% safe, it uses the most advanced technology, just like banks, so you can complete your purchase with peace of mind. The little symbol of the lock is saying all of that. Now, of course, you can also say the exact same things using words. For example, in my VSL, in my video sales letter, in the close of the video where I tell people to buy, I'm gonna say that our website is secure and they can place their order safely. But guess what image I put on the video while I say this? I put the image of a lock or the image of a safe, which goes directly into the subconscious to further impress this feeling of safety in the prospect's mind. But the crazy thing is, even words have a symbolic meaning. For example, I do direct response marketing. And in direct response, one of the biggest offers you can find are supplement offers. There are these like big ass 1 hour long videos and they're selling all kinds of supplements, you know, pills. Because, you know, people want the magic pill, so there's a lot of money to be made if you sell it to them. So there are these long sales videos selling these supplements, and they're saying that you're gonna lose weight, even if you sleep all day, you eat pizza and you never work out, and the pill will even make you regrow hair, fixes bad breath, and makes your dick harder. It's crazy, all in one pill. And the funny thing is, in every video selling these supplements, towards the end, they always say something like this. Every capsule is manufactured here in the US in our state-of-the-art FDA-approved facility. What's the symbolic meaning of the words FDA-approved facility? Well, first, notice how sneaky they are, because they're not saying that the pill is FDA-approved, they're saying the manufacturer is, but the subconscious mind takes the information and thinks that the pill are FDA-approved, so that's the first thing. But think about what they are really saying when they're mentioning the FDA. They are evoking the image of some regulatory body, the FDA. They're evoking the image and the feeling of trust, the image of strict standards, and the feeling that you can trust these manufacturers because it's approved by the FDA, and therefore you can trust the pill. So all the symbolic authority of the FDA, all the credibility, immediately goes to the pill. Do you see how sneaky this is? And there's another example of symbolic communication, but this time done badly, so done negatively. So just this morning, I was looking at a sales page that my team was building for one of our brands. So we're selling these skincare products. And on this page, there was a customer testimonial, a real video testimonial from this lady who had a great result with the product and left us a spontaneous review. And consider that the product is something that you use on your face and it leaves a bit of redness right after you use it, but then it goes away really quickly. So this lady in her testimonial said something like this. Yeah, I'm very happy with the product. I've seen results very fast. It's very easy to use. And the recovery time is very quick. So think about this last line. The recovery time is very quick. What's the symbolic meaning of the word recovery? What other words are connected to the word recovery? Well, you recover from an injury, you recover from some sort of pain, you recover from a breakup, you recover from the death of someone you love. So by saying the recovery time was very quickly, even if apparently she's talking about a benefit, the symbolic meaning of this sentence is that there is some kind of pain involved, there is struggle involved, and our mind wants to avoid pain and struggle. So this sentence is somewhat killing the sales message, and I would cut it out. So it's these very small things, very subtle, but words carry a lot of meaning, and your subconscious is always looking for these deeper meanings. So I can bet you $1,000 that if I look into your sales page, your sales presentation, or whatever kind of marketing material you have, I would find a lot of this stuff that needs to be fixed. And once you fix this symbolism, you can massively improve your sales. And to fix them, basically, you remove the negative symbolism, like this example I just shared with you, and then you add in more positive symbolism, like the lock, or other words that imply how your product or service is easy to use, give results very fast, requires very little effort, is reliable, it's used successfully by a lot of people, and the results are practically guaranteed. So these are all the things you need to remark multiple times during your sales presentation by using the right words and the right symbols. But it doesn't stop here, because symbolism is everywhere. So think about this. For example, I saw a speech from Obama, and during this presidential speech, right behind him, he had like 2 American flags, one of it on each side. And of course, a flag is a powerful symbol. You can understand that. But notice, on the other hand, if you look at a political speech from Trump, well, you won't find just one flag. He's going to have like 10 American flags on each side. And that is saying something symbolically. Or for example, in these political speeches, sometimes they have Roman columns in the background. What do Roman columns symbolize? Well, they symbolize power, culture, wealth, intelligence, strength. And when someone is wearing a watch, the watch is just a symbol to represent something else. So everything is symbolism. And what you say and how you say it and your choice of words carry a lot more meaning than you might be aware, right? Because words are linked to images that are linked to emotions that are linked to symbols. And so, for example, you may say to yourself that you work really hard. Or maybe your parents used to say that they work hard. It's a popular expression, right? But what does the word hard means? Think about it. Because the way your mind works with words is fascinating. Words are referential. Words are nothing more than references to experiences in the mind. So when I say hard, I work hard, it's one of the worst things you can say. Why? Because you can't imagine an experience. What's your experience with hard? What's hard? Rocks are hard, diamonds are hard, concrete is hard. You see? You have an experience with densities. But how can work be hard? You know? It can be difficult, but not hard, right? So a better way to evoke an experience in the mind is to say heavy work. And the word heavy is symbolically linked to an experience. You know, it's a heavy object, it's heavy to lift. We all have experienced lifting heavy stuff, right? So if you want to be more effective in your copy, you don't say hard work, but you say heavy work, because it creates a better experience in the mind. And remember, in order to really get in the mind and to change work, we have to go deep inside and bring out a lot of referential experiences in the mind. And that's also the basis of hypnosis. Hypnosis, it's typically like some sort of linking to experiences, moving experiences around and crisscrossing wires in the mind. But that's for another video. So now you understand that when you say that's a heavy task, it hits you harder than to say it's a hard task, because the word hard can form a clear image. So it's an abstraction. And if you can't form an image, you can't form emotions. So you can't move people. So one important thing to understand is that your language is either rooted in abstraction or it's rooted in reality. So an abstraction is something I can't imagine, while reality is something I have an experience in. So I can evoke images and feelings in my mind, such as with the phrase, I'm lifting heavy stuff. So if you want to shift beliefs in other people, you have to use words to connect to the things that they believe in and have experiences in, right? So for example, you know, Ronnie Coleman, the biggest bodybuilder, you know what he always said, like at the gym? He would say, lightweight baby. And then he would move a ton of weight, you know? And you see how that language changed him. It made him into a master, right? So one last tip you can use to improve your communication is this. Let's think about the word nice. Everybody says the word nice, you know? It was a nice day, it was a nice restaurant, this car is nice. But the problem is that the word nice is an abstraction. You have a vague image of the word nice in your mind, so a better word choice would be words like enjoyable, agreeable, pleasant, pleasurable, delightful, satisfying. You see how these words are connected to experiences, so your mind can better imagine? So from now on, instead of saying, have a nice day, just say, have a pleasant day, and it will be much more effective. So that was a lot to unpack, so congratulations again for arriving this far. Now the last thing I want to share with you is the magical 4 words loophole that I teased you with at the start of the video. And this is something connected to the symbolism we talk about. And it's very powerful to do what I'm about to tell you, because it can help you when setting goals. So if you use this, it will allow your mind to work for you to realize your goals instead of working against you. So when you communicate with ourselves or to others, we're always confirming our belief system. So we're mapping and remapping our minds. Imagine like those workers on the road that are repaving the streets. The same thing happens in your mind as you speak. Because coming back to the belief scales we talked about in the beginning of the video, you're always putting more weight to one side of the scale of your belief system or the other. So how do we set goals in a way that our subconscious works with us towards those goals? Well, let's say, for example, your goal is to have $1 million in the bank. I'm going to use a monetary example because everybody can relate, but the same thing applies to whatever kind of goal you have. So you want to make $1 million, okay? So what does this sentence communicate symbolically? I want to make $1 million. On a level of symbolism, I want to means I don't have yet, right? I want to means I lack it. So on a symbolic level, communicates that you can't do it. It communicates that you're not going to do it, right? Maybe you have some friends or know people that constantly talk about what they want to do. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to launch a business, I want to go on vacation, I want to lose weight, I want to meet new people. Well, most of the time, they end up doing nothing. And it's not their fault. They're good people. They're just mapping their brain the wrong way. So let's use another example. I will make $1 million. It sounds a little better, right? But what does it mean? I will means I haven't yet, which means I haven't decided yet, right? I will, I have the ability to, but I'm afraid to. You see how this is limiting as well? So on a symbolic level, it communicates some level of loss. Because obviously, if you will, why didn't you do it? And that's the same for somebody that's saying, I will lose a bunch of weight, I will launch an offer, or I will launch a business. But here's another example. I can make $1 million. So you can, but can you really? Why haven't you? How do you know if you can, if you haven't done it yet? What evidence do you have? So again, on a symbolic level, you're saying to yourself that you can, but because you haven't, your subconscious mind knows you can't, right? So one thing that you have to realize is that your subconscious mind is always in motion, is always active. And the reason we know that is because your heart continues to beat, you grow hair, you have energy cycles, your blood pressure changes, etc., right? So the subconscious runs the whole show in your body. And so since your subconscious mind runs the whole show, it always has to be in motion. It cannot stop. So any type of language that's outside of motion is against the subconscious mind, meaning that your subconscious won't believe it. So how do we change the language so we can repave those roads in the mind, repave those paths in the mind in a constructive way? Well, you just say something like, I am making $1 million. I am getting the Lambo. I am getting leaner. I'm creating $1 billion business. I'm finding the woman of my life. So use an active form, an ing form, right? Because remember, your mind can only believe what is true. So how is it true that you're making $1 million? Well, if you're making 10K a month, that's contributing to $1 million, right? So even if you're making only $1,000 a month, that's contributing to making $1 million. So your mind can believe that, and so it's gonna work with you to make that happen. So be careful when you talk, when you say, I want to, I will, I can, because it limits the mind quite a bit. And most people who don't do much in their life are affected by this type of language. So instead, remember to always say, I am going to do this, I am doing this. So when you think about your goal from now on, you use this type of language, and you'll see how faster they materialize and with much less effort. So now, I invite you to congratulate yourself for watching this video. I hope you now feel smarter and you can see how you can implement language better to improve your sales and improve your relationship. Now, of course, for everything I said, we can unpack it for hours and hours. And maybe I'll do separate videos, for example, on analyzing sales copy to spot the symbolism and improve the selling power of your message. So if that's something you're interested in, just let me know down in the comments. And I invite you to subscribe to the channel right now so you can learn some profitable stuff before your competition does. And the next video, just to tease you, it's gonna be a very spicy topic. And I'm thinking about the headline, How Women Really Think. So I'll explain how to understand women and how to communicate with women more effectively, as I have sold over $20 million worth of products, mostly to women. And so by learning how women really think and how to better communicate with them, you can massively improve your sales, improve your offers, and even get better at dating. Now, I invite you to rewatch this video multiple times because your mind needs to repeat things at least 5 times to really absorb the information so that you can use it to get the results you want. And I'll finish with this quote. Never underestimate the power of what seems absurd and ridiculous to give you amazing results. My name is Dario. Thank you for watching.